Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at A Contention for Honour and Riches by James Shirley, printed in 1633 and written sometime in the preceding sort of five years or so. We don't know precisely when. It's our first James Shirley in terms of what we've been doing. It's not his first play, I don't think, by any stretch of the imagination, but it's the first play of his that we are looking at. It's not very long. I say play. We're not really sure precisely what it is, actually. It's short. That's what it is. Hence the fact we can do it in one session. So we're going to have a little saunter through all three scenes of this text and see how it all fits together. So reading Ingenuity is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Essex.
Reading Gettings is...
Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas. I am a college composition teacher. This is my buddy Scooter. I'm in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Soldier is...
Alan, feeling Marshall in Suffolk.
Reading A Courtier is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and if you know me, I'm the total opposite.
Reading Riches is...
Lois Potter, not exactly typecast, in London.
And reading Clod and Honour is...
Aliki, Chapple, more Clod than Honour.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions indicating a whole host of additional characters who might be on stage bobbing about, or at least referenced. So we'll see what we get out of that. So without further ado, let's dive into scene 1. An apartment into the House of Riches. Enter Riches and Ingenuity.
My lady desires to speak with you.
Your lady? Who's your lady?
The Lady Honour.
Let honor come to riches. It will not disparage her, my friend.
She is not well.
Honor is seldom sound. What ails her ladyship?
She had a fall lately.
A fall?
And sprained her foot.
Teach her to climb. She's so ambitious.
Please you to do her the favour. She will wait upon your ladyship another time.
I cannot come.
Good madam.
I have the gout.
You may command a coach.
Riches, I know, may command anything, but I do not use to come to everyone desires my company. Beside, my servants are abroad, and it becomes me not to go so unattended.
I shall be fortunate if you accept my service.
Is that state enough for me? Although it be in fashion with your lord to amble with his footman and his page, I used to have more followers.
Great ladies have no such train. Many are held superfluous. The gentleman usher nowadays is thought sufficient for a countess, nay, for 2. Take him by turns, and yet he may be courteous to the waiting gentlewoman.
You assume, methinks, much liberty in talking. What's your name?
They which know me, call me Ingenuity.
Oh, Ingenuity out upon thee. I suspect you are a scholar.
I have studied arts.
Oh, defend me from his witchcraft. Had thy mistress none but a scholar to employ upon her compliments to me, one whose profession I hate, whose memory is my disease, and conversation death. How rank he smells of Aristotle and the musty tribe of worm-eaten philosophers. Get from me. I will endure the bears and their provision, lie in a hospital of French footmen, feed with prisoners, or be racked at Westminster, nay, die, and make poor orphans my executors, ere be confined to hear thy learned nonsense.
Why should you be such an enemy to scholars? They waste Minerva's precious dew, their sweat, to gain your favour, and would think themselves blessed when your golden beams but shine upon them.
'Tis not your flattery can win upon me. Go and declaim against me, good Diogenes. admire a virtuous poverty and nakedness, call fortune whore, and write whole volumes in the praise of hunger and your lousy wardrobe. Yea, teach the world riches is grown a monster, and that she dotes on ignorance. These are your vulgar doctrines, and I pray pursue 'em, my most immortal beggar, and get fame with some twice-sodden pamphlet, till you make submission to my fool, in hope of the reversion of his groom's bare livery. Your theses and your syllogisms will no doubt convert the beadle and the dog-whip.
Be pleased to hear me speak.
What impudence does this appear you should desire that favour? Have I not given testimony to the world sufficiently? I do not love a scholar.
Endure me for my mistress, Lady Honour.
I wonder what she meant to entertain thee. Away, dispute no further. If you move me to more impatience, riches will find ways to curb your insolence. 'Tis not your pretence to honour's service can protect you from my anger. I have kindred and acquaintance shall with their breath blow thee beyond the sea. Or if I should be merciful, and let thee enjoy thy country, never hope to arrive at above a pension that will find you woolen, a pedant or a vicarage preferment, gelded sufficiently by the improper parson, is all your wit must hope for. And take heed that you be modest then. No coat nor cassock can charm you. If I offer to complain, I shall put your divinity to silence.
I despise thy womanish threats, and shall account myself happy without thy favour. O philosophy, assist thy poor admirer, and infuse a noble fortitude to scorn her malice. I have no thought but has a triumph o'er thy base conspiracy. Welcome, my dear books, and contemplation, that shall feed my soul to immortality. Let puppets dote upon thy gifts and sell their privilege for gaudy clothes and Epicurean surfeits, lust and a catalogue of rich men's sins that shall, like plummets, jang upon their heart. When wings are most required, keep thy resolve and be an enemy to learning still, that when we find a scholar by thee favoured, we may suspect him counterfeit and a dunce. Honour will be my mistress, whose least smile I value above all thy pride or treasures, and she will scorn thee too. Farewell, gay madam, a painted tomb, though glorious to the eye, corruption dwells within thee.
Exit Ingenuity.
Foul-mouthed satire. But 'tis some punishment to let him waste his spirits with his railing. Let him fret, it may consume him without more diseases. Let him die anyway. Men of his quality are living but unprofitable burdens to the earth, as they were born to consume fruits and talk of needless sciences. Who are these? My ancient suitors, Clod the countryman, and Gettings the rich citizen.
But before we get to the entrance of Clod and Gettings, let's just have a little talk about Riches. So Riches is doesn't really want to go out today. You know, hasn't got anyone to demonstrate how wonderfully rich they are. And no, just, let Honor come to me. So, regardless of the fact that Honor's afoot. Is not very impressed with Ingenuity either. So, because Ingenuity is a scholar, and some issue with scholars there at great length. Expounded. Thoughts on the room so far? I mean, it's all sort of we've encountered allegorical figures like this before. We haven't, they're sort of, but they feel interestingly old-fashioned to a degree. So I'm quite curious about this. It's interesting. Any thoughts on the room at this stage? We're halfway through a scene. There is more of this scene to come. Eric.
I feel like Riches has clearly met the scholars from like every play we've read so far. Or maybe like the students who wrote the plays that we've read, like sort of, all maybe even, the Club Law.
Any of those sort of university plays, there is something of a overlap there. Aliki.
I mean, there's nothing really going on. There's just a slanging match. There's no plot progression. Once you've gotten the joke, which you get pretty quickly.
Yes, I mean I don't think we're going to be engaging with a lot of plot. I don't think this text is interested in excessive plot. Invite, it was a no. It was a no from Riches. Farewell, Ingenuity. Okay, let's crack on as we have the entrance of Clod the countryman and Gettings the rich citizen.
She's here. Good morrow to the star of my delight, whose beams more glorious do eclipse the sun and cast a richer warmth about the world.
How, turned poet?
Fear me not, lady. I'm none of those who were born to it. I'd rather be a Jew than christened in Parnassus pomp. I have nothing but the knuckles and the rumps of poetry.
Take heed in time, lest you become infected with wit. I do not love poetic fancies, nor anything that trenches on the muses. They were baggages, and Phoebus, their protector, deserved the whipping post.
I have read he was a common piper, and those 9 were gypsies that lived by cheating palmistry.
I like it when you do rail at learning. I allow you to read a ballad and ridiculous pamphlets writ on the strength of beer or some dull liquor. But if you smell profane sack in a poem, come not within a league of understanding, as you respect my favor.
I am instructed.
But why does Clod stand all this while so mute?
Either I'm a John o' Noakes or I'm not John o' Noakes.
He's dreaming of his horses.
Yee! Sweet lady, I am all to be mired in your beauty. The horses of my imagination are foundered in the highway of your perfections. For I am deep in love with your ladyship, though I do not wear such fine clothes as Master Gettings here, and am so much out of fashion. For I commend my doublet, I must speak fustian, yet my heart is cut and slashed, and I defy any man that has a better stomach to you in the way of matrimony.
No comparisons, Master Clod.
Let him be odious that names comparisons. For my part, I scorn 'em all, and the degrees.
You're very positive.
Dost thou positive me? And my mistress were not here, thou shouldst find Claude is made of another guess mold than to endure thy affronts.
And you quarrel, I am gone.
Nay, nay, sweet lady, we shall be friends again.
I hope it will not stretch to a duel.
Exit Riches.
Duel? You would not provoke me, Clod, would you? If you do, Clod.
I will provoke any man living in the way of love.
How?
He that shall go a wooing to my mistress, I will provoke him, and he were my father.
You're a dirty fellow, Clod, and if I had met thee that year I was a scavenger, I would have had thee carted.
Me carted? Cart thy bawds, there be a now within the walls. Dost thou tell me of a scavenger? Ah, fart for thy office. I'm a better man in the country than the constable himself, and do tell thee to thy face, though I am plain Clod, I care not a beanstalk for the best. What lack you on you all? No, not the next day after Simon and Jude, when you go a-feasting to Westminster with your galley foist and your pot guns, to the very terror of the paper whales, when you land in shoals and make the understanders in Cheapside wonder to see ships swim upon men's shoulders, when the fencers flourish and make the king's liege people fall down and worship the devil and St. Dunstan, when your whifflers are hanged in chains and Hercules' club spits fire about the pageants, though the poor children catch cold, that show like painted cloth, and are only kept alive with sugar plums, with whom when the word is given you march to Guildhall, with every man his spoon in his pocket, where you look upon the giants and feed like Saracens till you have no stomach to Paul's in the afternoon. I have seen your processions, and heard your lions and camels make speeches instead of grace before and after dinner. I've heard songs too, or something like them. But the porters have had the burden, who were kept sober at the city's charge 2 days before, to keep time and tune with their feet. For brag what you will of your charge, all your pomp lies upon their back.
So.
Must this day's pride so blow you up that a countryman's tale may not be heard?
That day's pride?
What makes you gamble so?
Why, anger has made you witty, countryman.
Thou liest, and I am none of thy countrymen. I was born out of the sound of your pancake bell. I cannot abide to be a proud fellow. And it were not for us in the country, you would have but a lean city. We maintain your charter, and your chamber too. You would have but ill markets, and we should forswear to furnish them. Where were your hides, horns, and plenty of other provision? Your wives could not do as they do with your short yard and your false light, and the country should not come in upon them. You cannot live without us. You may be called a body politic, but the country is the soul, and therefore subscribe and give way to me.
The highway, but not the wall in London. Do you know where you are, and what you have talked all this while? An informer would squeeze your trunk hose for this, and teach it to know your terms and your attorneys.
Oh, Hufford's good law for my money is best on you. I know what belongs to it. I have almost broke the parson of the parish already about his tithe eggs.
Why, thou lump of ignorance, leather, and husbandry, ill compounded, thou that hast been so long a dunghill till the weeds have overgrown thee, and afar off hast cozened a horse, thou that dost whistle out thy prayers, and what not, charge thy dirty soil for so many acres in paradise, nor leave thy share of the plough for St. Peter's patrimony, thou that were begot upon a haymow, bred in thy father's stable, and outdunged his cattle, thou that at 21 were only able to write a sheep's mark in tar, and read thy own capital letter like a gallows upon a cow's buttock, you that allow no scripture canonical but an almanac, which makes you weather-wise, and puts you in hope of a dear year. Let the country starve, and the poor grind provender, so the market rise, and let your soul fall to the devil among the corn cutters. I'm ashamed to hold discourse any longer with only one word. I would advise you, let your action of love fall, and be content to marry with Malkin in the country. She can churn well, and humble herself behind a hedge, for this lady is no lettuce for your lips. Go meddle with your jades, and exercise a whip among your bread and cheese eaters.
Sirrah, sit! I do challenge thee.
What weapon?
The next cutler shall furnish us both. If thou hast any metal, let us try before we part who is the better man.
If thou hast any ambition to be beaten to dust, Clod, thank yourself.
I will slash thy skin like a summer doublet. Come thy ways.
And they exit. And it's interesting that this little exchange is almost set. I do wonder how seriously Riches says, I hope will not stretch to a duel. I mean, I feel there's more over the shoulder going, please fight over me. Please fight, fight. I mean, what this text is actually giving us is lovely stuff about Lord Mayor's shows, which is some lovely detail, some of which is accurate, some of which is obviously sort of satirical. I don't believe the lions and camels ever actually spoke. I've not come across any actual speaking, but there definitely are lions and camels. Those are very apparent things, and all sorts of all those elements for Lord Mayor's shows being described in great detail. So there's which is really quite fun. Aliki.
So the joke of that is that the country Clod only comes to town for big pageants. Is that?
And doesn't necessarily take in all the details, which is fair enough. Actually, I think that's one of the fair reader responses for Lord Mayor's shows. Actually, is that you only focus on the bit you're interested in, and you frequently don't focus on the actual stuff you're supposed to be watching. We've had that from eyewitness accounts. But it's nice little details about everyone. You march to the Guildhall with every man his spoon in his pocket, because of course you have to bring your own cutlery and. But it is open house at the Guildhall, so come on in, Eric.
Wasn't that also in Shoemaker's Holiday, like at the end when they have this big party and stuff, and they all have like this sort of celebration? I want to say either Leadenhall or Guildhall, but I'm not sure which one of the halls it was. Anyway, yeah, that's not important.
Lois.
Yeah, well, what you're thinking of, I think, is that there's even the sound of the pancake bell, which is mentioned here, and that happens in Shoemaker's Holiday. Yeah, I think it's Leadenhall, because isn't it? There's a reference to its being named because in digging you found the lead which covered it or something. I think the king says. Yeah, so that is what that's a reference to, the being out of the sound of the pancake bell. In other words, not close enough to hear the pancake bell because you're not a proper Londoner.
The disadvantage for all this lovely detail is, of course, basically the point of this bit of scene is for them to say, let's have a fight. And they take an awfully long time to get to that, talking about stuff that most people outside of this room and our regular audience will not have a clue what they're talking about. I was loving the Lord Mayor show stuff, but I am absolutely certain that 99.9% of an audience is going, which is a real shame. Lois again, and then Eric, and then Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, that is the pity. I think these two long speeches are brilliant, and they're very good examples of this genre, which obviously people must have enjoyed, the kind of very detailed vituperation aimed at somebody. But yeah, as you say, they're so specific and so detailed that the average audience wouldn't get them.
Luckily, the play is quite short, so if we needed to put a introductory gloss in, we got bags of time. Eric, then Lynn.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the sort of I was enjoying the back and forth, and also just like some of the lines, like "fight for your office," or I kind of want to use that in everyday life. And I'm pretty sure we've had like references to lettuce before. I don't know why it's lettuce. Did they hate lettuce? Is that the thing? Because they just
ladies, no lettuce for your lips. Yes, we
Yeah,
have
I'm
had that turn of phrase before.
Yeah.
I cannot remember what it means.
I keep
we've done
thinking
it before.
it's like that sort of anime thing of like knocking over the cabbage stall, where it's like I think you got that one.
I think it's to do with nibbling lettuce or something. It's to do with kissing. Is that the sort of she has no lettuce for your lips?
Yeah.
I think it's the thing.
It's just a nice turn of phrase.
I often think of lettuce when kissing. Lynn.
I'm gonna leave that alone. Yeah, the lady lettuce for your lips. That's partly the alliteration. It might be that green vegetables were something of a delicacy. That poor people ate bread and root vegetables, and green vegetables were maybe a little more upmarket. Yeah, I mean, some of these things that Getting says are pretty funny, but you have to be really quick to catch them. I mean, I think most audience members are going to catch you outdunged his cattle, but you were only able to make a sheep's mark in tar and read your own capital letter like a gallows upon a cow's butt. He's talking about branding. So I kind of got that, but like if you were just hearing that, would you be able to catch that? Like he can't. The only letters he knows are like cattle brands. Like he's no more literate than that. And to him, the almanac is the only Bible he knows. So not only is he illiterate, he's probably not saved. So yeah, this is all so entrenched in the period that it's enjoyable for a very specific audience.
Yeah. Oh well. So let us move on to scene 2, apartment in the House of Honor. Enter Courtier and Soldier courting honor as well as ingenuity.
Look this way, lady, and in me behold your truest servant.
Is but airy courtship that he professes. Look upon me, lady, that can be active in your service.
'Tis the courtier and the soldier pleading their affection to my mistress, Lady Honour. I will not interrupt them yet. I cannot find by her countenance that she inclines to either.
Bless me, but with one smile, if you did know with what devotion my soul looks on you, how next to my religion I have placed, if not above it, your bright excellence, how long since I first vowed myself your captive, that I would deign some influence.
I have no stock of soft and melting words to charm you. Such silken language we're strangers to. We're used to other dialect, and imitate the drum or bold artillery. Can you love me? When I have marched upon the dreadful cannon, my heart was fixed on honour, nor could death, in all her shape or horror, tempt one thought to base retire. When no voice could be heard but thunder, and no object seen but lightning, we seemed to have been struck from the first chaos, so great a darkness as eclipsed the sun. Yet then I thought on honour, and looked in their lives that sunk about me. Everybody I trod upon, for now the dead had buried the earth, gave me addition to heaven, where in my imagination I saw 3 charioted and dropping down a garland.
No more. These are but compliments of wars. Perhaps some studied speech. I love your quality, but am not caught with these hyperboles. Honour's not won with words. True valour needs no paint of ostentation. The wound that has the greatest orifice includes not the greatest danger.
She has quashed his culvering, and now he's swearing out some prayers.
She's mine. Thus looked the moon when with her virgin fires she went in progress to the mountain Latmos to visit her Endymion. Yet I injure your beauty to compare to her orb of silver light, the sun from which she borrows, that makes her up the nightly lamp of heaven, has in his stock of beams not half your lustre. Enrich the earth still with your sacred presence. Upon each object throw a glorious star, created by your sight, that when the learned astronomer comes forth to examine heaven, he may find 2 and be himself divided, which he should first contemplate.
You both love me.
But I the best.
Oh, so the best?
Ere since I knew the court, I had no other study but to advance myself to honor. All my suits have been directed to this one, that honor would fix me upon those other among those other constellations that shine about the king. 'Tis in thy love to plant a coronet here. And then I dare jostle the proudest hero, and be inscribed a demigod, frown dead the humblest mortals, and with my breath call back their souls again. What cannot honor do?
Not that you boast. True honour makes not proud, nor takes delight in the ruin of poor virtue.
Sir, you said you loved her best.
And will maintain it.
You cannot, dare not.
Dare not?
So peremptory. Honour may, in time, find ways to tame the insolent lady Riches, but leave her to her pride.
The courtier and the soldier look as they would quarrel.
Let them. You see how they pursue me still, but honour is not so easily obtained.
They are gay creatures and conspicuous in the world.
But no such miracles. Gentlemen, you promised some spirit in you. There's no way to make me confident of your worth, but by your action. In brief, if you be ambitious of honour, you must fight for me. And as fame shall give me your character, I shall distinguish you and cherish worth. Meantime, I take my leave. Come, Ingenuity, you and I must have some private conference. I dare trust your bosom with something of more weight.
I am then happy when you command me service.
And I keep a register of all, and though delayed, forget not the reward.
And exit honour with ingenuity. There's a bit more to unpack here that I'm sort of quite enjoying. I'm quite liking these very demonstrative declarations of love, and honour's just sort of going, yeah, that's not how this works. I'm not caught with these hyperboles. Please, could you, studied speech? Please not. No. But there's also something nicely pathetic about, Courtier. No, I love the best. It's the best love. So there's something really quite. There's a sort of look at me. Please look at me. No, me. Look at me. And it's just Honor's just sitting there going, oh please, no, I haven't had my first cup of coffee yet. I'm gonna have some toast and a coffee and I might have a fag as well, but it's all that sort of thing. So it's just not really a bag at all. But then does also say you must fight for honor, because of course this is where we're getting to the allegoricalness of it all. Fight for honor. Thoughts from the room, Eric, and then Lynn.
I like the idea that she's basically like going, yeah, you two you're grown-ups, you can sort it out among yourselves. I'm just gonna go do this thing that I have to do. It's kind of like, I don't know, in my head it's like a modern woman avoidance tactic, so you don't have to deal with like people who don't understand the word no.
Yeah. There is a bit of that there. Lynn.
Yeah, I kind of wonder how this is going to turn out. It looks like honor has the most respect for ingenuity. Unsurprising, considering the person who wrote this is probably educated. But problem with allegories is that eventually all analogies break down. So in real life, a soldier and a courtier and a scholar can all have honor. And when you make them human beings, she can only like marry or, form a relationship with one of them. So like, how is this allegory going to work out is kind of what I'm wondering right now.
Polyamory. No, probably not. Okay.
She hasn't appeared as a character.
No.
But,
never know. Eric.
Also, we had mentions of Endymion, which we've read.
Yes, other versions.
You can find it on our YouTube channel. So.
But yeah, but that was to do the whole thing of compare you to the moon, but I wouldn't compare you to the moon because I could compare you to the sun. And it's sort of just like, yes. Okay, let's continue the scene. Soldier and the courtier have been left alone. Let's see what they get up to in the absence of honour and ingenuity.
Master Cringe, how do you like a sentence? If you mean to have honour, you must fight for it. Not oiled speeches, nor crinkling in the hams will carry her. You have worn a sword thus long to show the hilt. Now let the blade appear.
Good Captain Voice, it shall, and teach you manners. I have yet no ague, and I can look upon your buff and punto beard, and call for no strong waters. I'm no tavern gull that wants protection, whom you with oaths do use to mortify, and swear into the payments of all reckonings, upon whose credit you wear belt and feather, top and top gallant, and can make him seal it at midnight to your tailor. Go, invite young gentlemen to dinner, and then pawn them, or valiantly with some of your own file conspire sconce, or to a bawdy house march with your regiment, and kick the leverets, make colours of the boards, and yet be made friends before the constable be sent for, and run to the ticket for the pox. These services I do presume you were acquainted with.
Muscat!
Or wert thou what thou seemst, the soldier? For so much good I wish thee for my honour when I have killed thee.
Sirrah civet pox!
Let me ask your soldiership but one question. If Lady Honour, whom you have presumed without good manners to effect, should possibly descend to marry thee, prithee, what jointure couldst thou make her?
jointure?
I'll admit, for argument's sake, thou art a soldier. Perhaps you will give her a catalogue of towns, of leaguers, of the names of bridges broken down. Your nose in time may make another. You will tell her of onslaughts, bulwarks, barricados, forts of cannon, culverins, sakers, and a rabble of your artillery which you have conned by heart. A roll of captains' names. Perhaps you have in ready wounds some 20, I'll admit it, and in diseases can assure her 40. This would not do. She cannot eat a knapsack, nor carry baggage, lie in your foul hut, and roast your pullen, for whose precious theft you and the gibbet fear to be acquainted. If you return unto your wholesome country upon your honourable wooden legs, the houses of correction are no palaces, and passes must be had, or else the beadles will not be satisfied. The treasurer's name and 12 pence for your service in Low Countries, and spending of your blood for doughty French Dutchmen that would have hanged you there, but in their charity you were reserved for beggary at home. Is no inheritance, I take it, sir.
Have you done yet?
I've not much more to say.
It does appear by all this prattle, then, you do not know me, and obtain too much on trust to talk of soldier, a name thou not deserve to mention. Because some fellows here have bragged and perhaps beaten you and some other of your sacking tribe into belief that they have seen the wars that perhaps mustered at Mile End or Finsbury must be true sons of courage, be thus dishonoured, and their character defaced by such prodigious breath as we that for honour and your safety suffer. What in the repetition would fright your pale souls from you, when perhaps you put a jig at home and revel with your lady, to be thus rewarded? Happy they that died their country's sacrifice to prevent the shame of living with such popular drones. But I should wrong our glorious profession by any arguments to make thee sensible of what we are. It shall suffice to publish what is not now in ignorant supposition, but truth of your gay quality and virtues. You are a courtier.
Very good.
Not so. Such there be. I talk not to them now, but to thee, phantasm, of whom men do doubt whether thou hast a soul, thou that dost think it the better and more grateful part of thy religion to wear good clothes and suffer more pains at buttoning of thy gaudy doublet than thou durst take for heaven. Thou hast divided thy flattery into several articles, and hast so often called your great men gods, that 'tis because thy creed, and thou dost now believe no other, thou wilt not take a bribe to undo a nation, and sell thy countrymen to as many persecutions as the devil. Thou art beholding to thy pride, that has made thee thine own self-lover, but without it, none else affecting thee, I do not see what else could keep thee from despair and drowning. Thy wantonness has made thy body poor, but not in show. For though thy back have paid for it, it wears rich trappings. Art may help your legs, but cannot cure your dancing. That and pepper avoid with like discretion. One betrays you at dinner, and the other between meals. Go, purchase lands and a fair house, which must, when thou livest in it, be a hospital, and owe no other body for diseases.
Pray, come and take a chamber.
Thou hast ignorance and impudence enough for 20 alchemists.
I'll hear no more.
A little, I'll entreat you. You shall be beaten afterwards, ne'er fear it.
Darest thou blaspheme the court?
I honour it, and all the noble ornaments of state, that, like pomegranates in old Aaron's coat, adorn the prince that wears them. But such courtiers, the cousins, like glowworms in the night, of rotten wood, I hate, and in their number, for this time, be content, I list your worship.
How do you know what I am, or what title perhaps I wear?
I know thee by thy wrong to soldiers.
I speak of such as thou art, and I dare maintain and write as much in thy own blood.
But here he is interrupted by the entrance of Honesty.
Dost thou not see? Honesty!
Honesty? What hast thou to do with honesty?
I never could endure her. She appears more terrible than a ghost. I have no stomach to fight. My blood is frozen in my veins. She's 1,000 punishments at once. Now would I give my office to be appeased with mine own conscience. She does pursue me.
These are idle imaginations. Collect yourself, good courtier, and remember what we are to do, or I shall. Ha!
Enter the apparition of No Pay.
What's the matter? More terror.
I'm cold too.
Another apparition.
You may know him by jaw fallen. 'Tis no pay. And what a comfort no pays to a soldier. I appeal to a council of war. The devil is not so full of horror. No pay? I'll not fight. A stroke, though I was sure to clear the empire.
And they exit. So, after saying lots of words, the courtier is scared off by the arrival of Honesty. I don't know how you personify Honesty. I mean, Honesty doesn't say anything, so you have to do what's honest clothing look like? Responsibly sourced. I don't know. And then the apparition of No Pay. So I don't know, someone with their sort of pockets out and empty and holding a piggy bank that's just clearly got nothing in it, and or something like that. After the soldier and the courtier have said a lot of words, how engaged were we with those words? I'll go to Lois, then Eric, then Alan, then Aliki.
Oh God, I've read so many scenes like that before. I mean, the courtier versus the soldier just goes on, and usually the dramatist is on the side of the soldier because he can always prove he's better by beating up the courtier, and there's not much fondness for courtiers anyway, and they are thought of as overdressed and deceitful.
Eric.
I was gonna say it's interesting how there's this mention of like the Dutch wars and stuff when you've got like things like the Siege of Antwerp about sort of 100 years before this. Approximately 100 years? I don't know.
No,
maybe
about
50 years.
50, 60.
Yeah,
It's definitely before this by quite a distance.
Yeah.
The play's only 30 years, though. Lois.
Yeah, we're sort of at the beginning of the 30 Years' War. And that last line, in fact, I'll not fight a stroke, or I were sure to clear the empire. I take it that does refer to the Holy Roman Empire and the Catholic side in the war.
Yes, mainland European politics is a complicated and ever weaving thing that we haven't really gone into in any great detail. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I said an awful lot of those words. I'm not sure I really understood what the heck was going on, other than it was all basically provocation to a fight which doesn't actually happen, or doesn't happen on stage, or hasn't happened so far.
I don't think it is going to happen. I think that the prospect of no pay has scared this soldier into fleeing the scene.
I'm just not quite sure what this play is trying to do, and I think we've had some caricatures so far. I mean, the whole of the previous sequence with the London citizen and the countryman seemed basically designed to be of appeal to the London groundling crowd.
Well, this is the thing, because it's really engaging with the kind of things that we see in an awful lot of dialogue texts, and for that matter, much earlier sort of the performed texts as well, but a much earlier tradition that does sort of survive in various different places. But it's sort of this. That's why I'm not quite sure what this playlet is, or who's it for. I mean, who performs it and why is it is quite rarefied. But I'd say we see this kind of debate thing going on in print a lot. But maybe there's more of this kind of performance going on than we think. We're a bit ahead of our normal period, so we're floundering a little bit in terms of wider context. Aliki.
Yeah, quite a lot of it was very opaque to me. I found the courtier's insults to the soldier more interesting than the other way around, but that's at least in part because I have a much better idea from drama and literature of what a soldier might be doing and what his problems might be than a courtier's.
And I was enjoying the soldier when he was doing sort of wooey things because it was quite nicely over the top and silly. Whereas here it's slightly harder to get a grip on what they're doing. Lois.
Yeah, one or two things that really puzzled me. I mean, does anybody know about Pepper, for example? The soldier's insults to the courtier sort of finish up with, art may help your legs, but cannot cure your dancing. That and Pepper avoid with like discretion. One betrays you at dinner and the other between meals. Okay, well, I mean, maybe his dancing is so bad that it betrays him, but Pepper, I mean, is that because it makes people sneeze, or is there something else about Pepper?
Is it some sort of weird snuff substitute that the courtiers are doing? Are they doing pepper, or is it to do with just the food that they're eating that they're adding pepper to it, and it's overspiced meals at court or something like that? Alan,
I'm just wondering whether that's a general pop at conspicuous consumption, because pepper at this time would still have been pretty damned expensive.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the main thing they insult the courtier for is his smell. I mean, perfume, and that's something that's always being said. Perfumed courtiers.
Syrah civet box.
Yeah, civet box, and that's especially expensive perfume.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just wanted to second some of the thoughts from the room about how, not sure where this is going. I was thinking of a contention of prodigality and liberality, only because of the title and the sort of the contention, and that being the source of the drama. But I was struck by the fact that I didn't get a strong sense of place in this. We didn't have plot. There's not much going on with plot. There isn't that much sense of place or even time. But we have these characters that are appealing. But then some of the long passages were fun at first, and then they started to drag a little. So I'm not sure what. I agree with the people that weren't sure what to make of the play so far.
Yeah, because we've got, in a sense, our two primary protagonists here, the title characters, refuse to meet each other yet. One refuses to meet the other. So we've sort of set up this duality between honor and riches, and we've got various people courting one, various people courting the other. I assume there's going to be a sorting of some description in the final scene when presumably they all turn up and talk to each other in some fashion. I could be wrong on that point. Lois.
Yeah, the contention is rather odd because it's really two contentions beneath the contention that's announced in the title. But I think this is, I just noticed that the next scene begins with Gettings and Clod armed. So maybe we're actually going to get a fight. And that would make it like some of those court entertainments where you get, a debate between two things, and then you get each of them producing their combatants, and then they have a very sort of symbolic tournament or whatever. And then at the end, usually somebody comes on and says, well, actually, both honor and riches are important. We should try to have them both, or, something equally exciting. So it might be that it's going in that direction.
Yes, and you're right in that sense that we have actually, yes, they did provoke a fight, and unlike the soldier and the courtier, Clod and Gettings are challenged each other and have got on with it. So that's quite nice. Yep. And we haven't done work for Cutlers yet, but it's very like that. But the other entertainments that are similar to that, we have done. They're available on the YouTube channel as academic entertainments various. Very short, shorter than this, and yes, so maybe there is a model here that this is feeding from, but we shall see as we go into Act 3. I'm fairly certain these descriptors at the top of the scenes are entirely late editorial, because it says here a retired spot near the houses of honour and riches. I don't think Shirley wrote that. All I'm sure he wrote was enter Gettings and Clod armed.
Our weapon's length is even, but you'll find there is such odds betwixt us Not but death can reconcile our difference.
Deny your major. I think I heard a scholar use that word against Bellarmine. Aye, I'll stand to it. If not but death can reconcile our difference, we must both be killed. So prepare thyself. I hope to send thee to heaven, and be far enough off ere sunset. If thou hast made thy will, let them prove it when thou art dead, and bury thee accordingly. Thy wife will have cause to thank me. It will be a good hearing to the poor of the parish. Happy man be his dole. Besides, the blue coals can but comfort thy kindred with singing and rejoicing at thy funeral. Come on thy ways.
You're very round, Clod. I do not think you have practiced fence of late. This is a weapon you are not used to. A pitchfork were more convenient for your manage.
A pitchfork. Thou shalt know thy destiny by this, though it have but one point. I know where thy heart lies. I desire no more, and less would satisfy me. Unless thou wilt eat thy words and confess thou hast wronged me, out it shall. I have a stomach to cut thee up, and my sword has a pretty edge of itself, and my greatest grief is that I owe thee nothing to discharge altogether. But 'tis no matter, I can but kill thee.
Yeah, sorry, my computer is spazzing out and I have lost my text.
Oh.
Okay, it's there, but it's all blurry. So this should just fix itself in a minute. Page. Okay. You cannot, sure, for aught I see in your countenance, you are not long-lived yourself. You have but a tallow complexion. Do you know what ground you stand upon, Clod?
Ground?
You may tread upon your grave now for all this blustering.
Thou liest. There's more to provoke thee. No, I came not hither to die. I would not be buried at any man's discretion. My father was buried in the country, and my grandfather, and his father before him, and if I live, I'll be buried there myself. What do we lose time? Look to thy head, for I will make an even reckoning with thy shoulders presently.
Enter foul weather in harvest.
Ah! Alas, I will not fight. I have no heart to lift up a weapon.
You were but fire and tow, even now.
But here's water. Dost not see? I shall be undone.
Who is this?
Why, 'tis foul weather in harvest. All spoiled. I would not have thy heart now, and thou would skint me.
'Tis well something will cool you after so much thunder, but it will not quench the fire of my anger. I do not use to put up these things. When I am drawn to it, your foul weather is nothing to the business in hand. Therefore, submit thy neck to my execution, or...
I'll kill me, I'll forgive thee. I shall have no harvest to year.
And thou hadst as many heads as Hydra.
And enter long vacation.
Huh? I'll not hurt a hair. I am frighted. This is my heart. You had not so wet, but we are like to have as dry a time on it. I stood upon terms before. This is long vacation.
Long vacation?
I dreamed of a dry summer. He will consume me. It will be 1,000 years till Michaelmas. Prithee, let's be friends. For my part, I have no hope of riches.
And I but little, and this weather hold.
Enter riches.
Here she comes.
Where be these friends of mine? Alas, what mean you? I am faint with seeking you to stay your fury, for I was told your bloody resolutions. You should be a man of government. Are these the ensigns of the city? Will you give, without the herald, in your arms a sword to the old city dagger? You wear a gown, emblem of peace. Will you defy your gravity with basket hilt and bilbo? And you, bold yeoman, that like a rick of hay hath stood the shock of winter, and grew white with snow of age, is this an instrument for you? But I am confident that you will say 'tis love of me hath brought you to the field, and therefore, to prevent future mischief, I determine here to declare myself. But first, conjoin your loving hands, and vow a constant friendship. Then one of you I'll choose to be my husband.
By our 7 gates that do let in every day no little sin, by the sword which we advance, and the cap of maintenance, by the shrive's post and the hall, yclept guild and London wall, by our royal change, which wields gentle wear, and by Moorfields, by our thrice burnt famous steeple, that doth o'erlook the people, Cheapside cross and loud Bow bell, and by all that wish it well, I am friends with him till he dies, and love him like my liberties. So tell me, Riches, what I speak, the citizen will never break.
What say you?
By my cart and by my plough, my dun mare and best red cow, by my barn and fattest wether, my grounds and all my state together, in thy love I overtake thee, else my whistling quite forsake me, and let me ever lie, which worse is, at rack and manger with the horses.
Then, Master Clod.
With all my heart, am I the man?
The man, I must entreat you have some patience. I do imagine you affect me dearly, and would make much of Riches.
There's no lady that shall outshine my darling. 'Tis no matter though I be in russet all the week. Riches shall live like a lady, have perfumed linen, costly gowns, and petticoats worth taking up, and as the fashion is, I will put thee into a bag.
This will not, sir, agree with your condition to keep me brave. The country cut must be observed.
Hang country cuts! Do but marry me.
But this is not my exception. There is more that interdicts our marriage, for though you are willing to conceal it, Master Clod, yet you and I are kindred, at least cousins.
Why, is your name not Riches?
Though my name be Riches, yet my mother was a Clod. She married rich earth of America, where I was born. A dirty family, but many matches have refined us now, and we are called Riches.
If you were born in America, we are but kindred afar off.
Let's not confound our genealogies.
I would be loath to marry an infidel born, and yet I like your complexion so well that...
No, I am reserved for thee, and here I plant my best affection.
Welcome to my heart. How I do love thee, Riches. Oh, my soul, we'll marry straight.
And thus much for your comfort. Nay, droop not, Clod, though I be wife to him, yet if I bury Gettings, I'll be thine, and carry London with us to the country.
After this rate, you are my wife-in-law. Well, give you joy.
Methinks I fumble my gold chain already. But who are these?
But before we have the entrance of the courtier and the soldier, there are a few things to unpack there. The Riches married the rich earth of America, so there's Riches coming over from the Americas, which by the 1630s is multiple in various complicated and problematic ways, especially when we get I've written next to parts of this text. I think that's about as far as I've got in unpacking some of that. Yes, we've got a same game with Clod and Gettings of they're going to fight, they're having this exchange, and then they're scared by something that is going to ruin their prospects, either wet weather or dry, and so they're or in different circumstances, and the Riches coming in, and they have this sort of final little exchange. thoughts from the room about this bit? I mean, it sort of bounces along, but yeah, the sort of odd twist towards the end. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was thinking about. I had previously said that there wasn't a sense of place, and then obviously the text gave us a lot to do with place, like Cheapside, and like give us this very strong sense of London, and I like that. And then you get that sense of like the concept of the Americas. And then I thought that, you were talking about how that was problematic, and I thought that there's a contention between place as well that was introduced in those speeches, and I was just really kind of taken aback by the mention of the Americas, because I thought, I just thought, oh, would an audience of the time have a real understanding of the Americas, and what would that mean to them? Would it just be some far off place, or would it have like specific meanings to them?
Well, again, it partly depends on your audience. I mean, it's interesting, now that we've been doing these plays for quite a long time now, and in terms of time, in the sense that we started at the beginning, largely at the beginning of the 16th century, we're now sort of approaching the midpoint of the 17th century, and the Americas are a much more real place, I think, in the popular imagination than they were before, and certainly in terms of where people's wealth is coming from. And people travelling about. I mean, this say why it gets more problematic is, of course, the wealth that is being extracted from the Americas is not necessarily a good thing. Lois, then Lynn.
I think Shirley is sort of hinting at that by saying that it's dirty. I mean, the origin of riches is in dirt, essentially. That's why she's related to Clod. But it sort of reminds me, I mean, there's a line in Webster, which is sort of a mini allegory. Someone says there are many ways that lead to seeming honor, and some of them are very dirty ones.
Lynn.
Yeah, I don't know if sugar plantation had really taken root, as it were, in the New World at this point. But that was that was the product that the New World produced, and sugar, which was converted to rum, anyway, yeah, that was the commodity that was the basis of the triangle trade. So but 50 years before this, English pirates basically had been raiding Spanish treasure ships from Latin America. So the idea of the New World as El Dorado and the sorts of great riches in this sort of exotic, faraway land. Yeah, I think that really was pretty strongly present in the popular imagination.
And more appropriate for this text as well, when they're talking about digging, riches coming from the ground, in that sense that it's a commodity that is being shipped from there. So that might be an element of that. Aliki.
The cultivation of tobacco is also pretty problematic. So. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff I didn't get there. I didn't get, even going back to the very beginning, I didn't get, the bit about, there's a name that's mentioned. I've forgotten who it is now.
You mean Bellarmine?
Bellarmine, that's it.
Oh, yeah, theologian. That's the deny your major bit, which is
right. I found it.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's a term. I mean, it's what people say when they're having a logical debate. You have a major proposition, and I think a minor and a conclusion, don't you?
Oh, right. So I don't accept the terms of debate that you've stated. I did quite like the thing about making your head equal to your shoulders. I thought that was a clever way of putting it. Yeah. And then I really don't understand a lot of his pitch to riches. I think I kind of get the wealth coming from the Americas bit and what some of the issues around that might be. But I don't understand you'll be dressed well even though I'm not, and I'll put you in a bag and all of that.
Yes, I was puzzled by that too. I mean, when she talks about the country cut and how he's got to preserve it. I mean, I take it that's the way people dress in the country, unless I'm missing something. And Yes, I didn't really get that either.
It's either that or it's just a setup for a rude gag, which
yeah.
is sort of how I read it.
Yes.
It might not really be going anywhere. It might just be
yeah.
to set up something that sounds a bit dirty.
Yes.
Okay, let's finish the text as far as we go. There might be a slight clash with Honor and Clod, but I don't think they talk to Clod. I don't think they talk to each other. Enter Courtier and Soldier to Clod and Gittings.
No honor to be found.
Let us inquire of these. Did any see the Lady Honor?
What care we for honor, so we have riches?
Ha! I've been acquainted with this lady.
I was at court the last week, sir.
I remember.
I have seen her somewhere too.
I've been a traveller.
Were you never taken by the Hollander?
I was in the Plate Fleet.
Beso las manos, senora.
I've almost forgot my Spanish, but after a little practice, I may recover it.
I know not honor if I see her. I have heard of such a lady, gentleone, but riches can direct you to her.
I apprehend your desires, sir, and will direct you.
I am your servant, lady.
But first, Master Gittings, know these gentlemen.
They are in my books already. Pray, gentlemen, know my commodities. When I have married riches, I shall be better able to furnish you.
We wish you joy.
And shall remain your debtors.
I make no doubt.
But here's the lady whom we inquire for.
She has music to attend her.
She does indeed. Music, enter Honor and Ingenuity.
Ah, the scholar. The case is altered. Is that not Ingenuity?
How familiar they are. I hope they're not married.
Is this Madam Honor?
So, lady.
Gentlemen, I come to reconcile your difference. I did foresee you desperate in love, and prompted, I confess, your swelling valours to fight for me, but upon second thoughts I cancelled that opinion, and devised a way to settle all things without danger. This gentleman, late my servant, Ingenuity, hath removed all occasion of your further courtship, and now hath won me for his bride.
Married the scholar, despised.
Affronted!
You are passionate. You could not both possess me. Yet in him your excellences meet, and I enjoy him. He can be courtier and a soldier when the occasion presents itself. He hath learned to obey well, can command, nay, be not sad. If you love me, express it in your congratulations. Here I fix myself, and vow my best affection. If in the number of my friends I may write to you, be confident you shall not lose by your respect to honor. Lady Riches, I hope there is no antipathy in your nature, but you may smile upon a scholar now, married to honor.
Since you have so advanced him, he shall not want my favour.
Now I am confident.
We must obey our destiny, since fate meant me not so much happiness to be the husband. Let me still be the humble servant to honor.
My desires have the same ambition.
Joys crown your marriage.
Your marriage.
Now you both divide me, but in this empire I can brook no rival. Be all my honoured guests, and with one feast and revels celebrate our double marriage.
And here our love unites. Pardon what language my passion threw upon thee. I acknowledge a soldier's worth above the reach of malice.
My heart shall spread to embrace the noble courtier.
Here's nothing but compliment. You should bring up a fashion to kiss one another.
'Tis such a dry clod.
Correct your passion, sir. I am informed you have been guilty this day of abuse against the noble citizens, and traduced their yearly triumph.
'Twas his ignorance, but we are friends again.
Then I have done. Now, gentlemen and ladies, in the assurance all are pleased, let us join in a dance. Such mirth becomes a wedding. Strike up some nimble air.
And they have a dance.
Thus all have seen how Providence imparts wealth to the city, honour to the arts.
And they exit, and everyone lives happily ever after. And in a sense, they sort of solved Lynn's quandary there of how do you make that marriage work by saying ingenuity is sort of in everyone. And so that sort of gets us past that problem. There's a dance at the end. There's definitely a sort of pro-city little ending there. So I'm just trying to wonder who performed this and for why. What is it? There's a dance, so I suppose you could fit it into a mask, but it's not. Doesn't feel awfully masky. We haven't done really enough of those to make that a proper judgment call. Maybe it's some random entertainment for city folk. That's possible, I suppose. And maybe it's for school children of some description. That's not impossible. It's almost certainly not for the commercial stage. I don't see it fitting in even in a compilation show. We do have, compilation shows, but this is does not fit in the pattern of any other. That's not the primary question, but anyway, Lynn, then Lois.
Yeah, I was going to say my guess was maybe commissioned by a wealthy family as a kind of closet drama. It's like, we're going to put on a little show. We're having a big party and we're going to put on a little show or something like that. That it was actually, evidently there was a fair amount of performance that took place in wealthy households. Even after the theaters were closed in the 1640s, people would put on little plays in their banqueting halls in their big houses. So that's my guess, is that it's for a kind of private performance. But yeah, it's an odd little piece.
Lois.
Well, I know that Shirley later on was a schoolmaster. I'm not sure if he was one at this point or not, but it strikes me as the sort of thing that you might well do at a school. I mean, for one thing, making these speeches was the sort of thing that the kids were supposed to learn to do, as with the children at a Lord Mayor's show. And then there were these non-speaking roles, I think 4 of them, for people who presumably have some sort of fantastic costume and just walk on. That would be the youngest kids, I would imagine. And there's a dance, and I would imagine it would be a school in London, since the ideal seems to be that wealth goes to the city, and but that it's ultimately derived from the country. I mean, that is kind of interesting, that it's both the country and another country, so to speak. And it just has that whole sort of structure. I mean, everything ends up, everybody's very happy at the end. There's no actual fight, because I guess the children wouldn't fight. I mean, and indeed, those staged fights were big, elaborate things. You'd need a lot of space for them, whereas you could do this in a very small space.
Yes, we only really have 7 people turning up all at the same time at the very end. The rest of the time, there's usually only 2 or 3 people on at any one time. And I have to say, it sort of chimes with how I see this text having utility, because I kind of see it as a training text. It's quite difficult. It's full of stuff you need to sit down and unpack. But I think it's probably quite good to actually use as, I say, not necessarily as an entertainment, but something to do. You can use this with actors for a workshop, and it exercises quite a few interesting muscles in that sense. And trying to make it come to life is quite interesting as an exercise. And certainly, I almost feel that if you're going to do this, you need to do an expanded version where you stop every few minutes and you just talk through the history. I feel that its landing point for us today is that there's a lot of stuff in here that is a good leapfrog to discuss something, rather than something that you actually find entertaining. I found it mostly quite hard work, occasionally fun, but not desperately satisfying. But that doesn't mean to say it doesn't have utility. And certainly, someone thought it would be adaptable into a longer and more expansive work, because indeed, in 1658 we get Honoria and Mammon. So 30 years after it, it gets a different life and a reworking of elements of it. But that is outside of our remit. So maybe, but not today. Any other thoughts about the ending before we go into final thoughts? Eric.
I did enjoy the line about you should bring up a fashion to kiss one another, but then like if it's like men playing women and all that stuff, then it kind of and also not just for that, but I mean like gay marriage and all that stuff. But I just like the idea that it's sort of amused or an idea entertained sort of at this point. I don't know if women were performing on stage at this point historically.
Only in private.
Okay.
There are private performances going on. Well, it depends what you mean by perform. There are performers. They're not actors. In public. Anyway, there's lots of really cheap gags as well. You know, all the Clod gags. They seem to have all of the Clod gags just lined up, just to tick them off as you go along. So yeah, quite liking that.
There you go.
Okay, final thoughts from around the room. Elizabeth, how ingenious did you find Ingenuity or the text or this, and what might you do with it? What might we do with it? What, you know, we've got this material. What might we do?
I liked it. I don't think it's broken enough to fix. You know, because sometimes we kind of have this debate towards the end of the sessions, like, so how do we fix this play? And I just feel like with this one, it's very difficult to kind of say like what you would do with it. I liked the concept of the allegory. I like that. I thought that was good, and I do like the fact that Clod was the main character, and I thought that was like a nice juxtaposition to Riches. But overall, the characters were good. The plot was a little bit loose. I feel like it needed lots more things to have happened. Very little happened in the whole thing, and the sense of place could really come out if you staged it correctly. So the sense of it being London, being the city, I think could be an angle that you could tackle it with. So I enjoyed this one. I liked it.
Yes, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, that in a sense that there's nothing to fix in the sense that it is its own thing. It's just out of context, and therefore it's not like you can go through and just tidy some edges. It's doing what it wants to do. We just might not find that engaging anymore. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the point is. I mean, I was getting the impression earlier on that if it was done for public performance, then there were a lot of stuff, particularly in the early stage between Gettings and Clod, which was designed to whip up the London mob, the London groundlings. Let's all be sarky about the countryside and all those country bumpkins. But it seemed to spend a lot of time not going very far.
Well, it says it's got various debating points, and it sort of debates them. I mean, I think we shouldn't be looking for a plot here. It doesn't have a plot. There is a contention for honour and riches. There are two people wooing each, and they bandy some words with each other, and then a marriage happens. So in the sense, we shouldn't really be looking for plot. Again, that's sort of our problem, not necessarily the text problem. It's just I think the problem is you can have these kinds of debates in a more engaging way. I've read considerably more dynamic dialogue texts, and I just didn't follow things frequently, which I struggled with. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I have a hard time engaging with allegory as a rule, so yeah, it was a little bit of a slog for me. I thought some of the details about early modern life were interesting. They were, interesting to have that look into the early modern mindset about what's valuable about being a farmer and what's desirable about being a merchant and that kind of thing. But as drama, I really don't have ideas about like how to make it live or work on stage.
I mean, since to do it on stage is very straightforward. You get 7 people and you get them to say some words. I mean, and teach them a dance and do a bit of song. And then I mean, because you can double as pretty much all of the other people who come in fantastic costumes can be any other member of the cast. That can double very easily. So yeah, it's in that sense there isn't a structural issue to really discuss there. Lois, any final thoughts?
No, I quite enjoyed it, but I mean, I like this sort of debate play. But obviously, if you want to play, this isn't it. I mean, it is just a series of debates that are then resolved, and I think the sort of audience it was intended for probably thought it was delightful. I mean, there's so many very specific topical details and things that obviously are aimed at whoever is watching this thing. I was struck actually by Shirley's verse, which is extremely loose. I mean, you get lines ending with not only with weak syllables, but with the sort of thing you wouldn't normally end a line with. I mean, words like "and," for example, that goes straight on into the next one, or an adjective followed by the noun at the beginning of the next line, and not in order to have a special effect. I mean, sometimes dramatists do that, and it's because the beginning of the next line then gets a sort of extra zap from it. But in this case, it's more just that it's it is blank verse, but it's very free blank verse.
Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I like it as a play or performance piece, whatever you want to call it. I think, as you said, it would be a good intro to like sort of interludes or all those allegories that we've done, just because like they're very some of them are not quite so dense or like even subtle at all. But yeah, I don't know. It's just basically I feel like it's not doing very much though. It's kind of like there are other plays where like morality plays where you've got like what the bingo, the vice bingo is, where it's like the vices get together to bring down the virtues. The virtues are good and boring, and then the vices change their names, and you get like the sort of there's like a sort of format. Whereas I feel like this one we need more context for it, maybe.
Well, I say it's very like the kind of thing that John Hayward was doing 100 or so years prior to this, and which is sort of to one side of the morality tradition, in the sense that it's about juggling ideas in an interesting way. But whereas Hayward, once you reach the end of a point of logic, he would do something to wake everybody up. So there would be a fight, or that people would start hopping, or they'd sing a song for no readily apparent reason, just because he was. I think was slightly more engaged in entertaining the audience at the same time. I'm not sure what the engagement for this is doing some of the time. Anyway, Aliki, final thoughts.
Yeah, well, I sort of feel that it's a bit like student comedy in that a lot of the topical references that make it hilarious for the audience make it very difficult for us to see.
Well, it's quite short and doesn't have a massive cast, so we might return to this sooner than you'd think. But certainly, if you're interested in sort of dialogue forms and dialogue text, there's a lot more of that going on in the podcast, where we do a certain amount of dialogue texts, rather than on the YouTube channel. Then there are a few dialogue bits and pieces, and there's certainly some university plays that play around with the same sort of idea as this. There should be some links in the show description. But otherwise, all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading, and I will leave you with the note by Abraham Wright around about 1640, who copied sections of this text into his little compilation manuscript. So all that remains is say goodbye, and no play, but 2 or 3 speeches compiled together.